you now get a lovely look at Josh and Jules off to the side here. I did some reorganizing on my bookshelves. I also moved down my Off Balance collection, so that way this is also in the background of the videos because it deserves it. Today, I saw a TikTok and it was something along the lines of like realizing that you're at the age where you could date him or his dad. And I was like, you know, we're doing a video on that because how fun is it to be at that age where you could date him, age appropriate choice, or the dad. You know what, I realized that I've actually read a lot of books where it follows the dad and then also one follows the son. So I'm gonna go through them all, and yeah, that's, I mean, literally the point of today's video, and then you can make the choice of if you would go for the son or for the dad. Now here's the thing, normally dad all the way, right? That's normally my choice. However, there are some of these, I'm picking the son. I'm picking the son. And first one, which was the one that immediately I thought of when I saw this TikTok and was like, how can I turn this into a video, was The Doctor and the Good Girl, where I have been a Dr. Lowe girl since I've read this book years ago. I love this book. However, Preston, listen, I'm picking Preston. But we gotta start with the doctor here. So this one is an ex's dad romance, and then obviously the ex, we'll get to him in a moment. This one, our heroine Cassidy, she has this boyfriend that, you know, she's been with for years and just kind of like is comfortable in this relationship. However, she's kind of sees it going like to being a dead end. And then when he ends up cheating on her, she's like, absolutely not. But like the relationship is kind of coming to an end, so she's not super heartbroken about it. However, she is like, you know, I've been watching your dad for years. And Dr. Lowe has also been watching her, but he's always been like, she's off limits, she's too young, she's my son's girlfriend, like can't cross those lines. However, when his son screws up, Dr. Lowe's prepared to swoop in and show her how she should actually be treated, which is so good. I love this book, very hot, very fun. The age gap is great. Dr. Lowe, like I said, I was fully team Dr. Lowe until I got to the good girl. So Preston is the shitty ex in this one that you absolutely hate him. But let me tell you, his redemption in this book sold me. I love this version of Preston that honestly, like, I don't even want to go back and reread The Doctor because I don't want to not like him again because I love him so much in this book. So this one is a best friends sisters romance, and also like a tiny bit of an age gap. I think they're maybe like 4 years apart, and also kind of like some spicy lessons moment. Preston is basically, obviously he has made a lot of mistakes in the past and he is trying to move on from that. He's like building a business with one of his friends. He's turning his life around. He's like making more of an effort, not just like sitting around kind of like being angry about the circumstances of his life and how things have played out. So he's trying to be better for himself, right? And then we have Sydney, who she's always lived under the thumb of her very oppressive parents, and she's always kind of done whatever they wanted to do, even though she's not living the life that she wants to live. Like, she doesn't get to go to culinary school like she wants. She doesn't get to go out and do the things that she wants because her parents are so strict with her, even as an adult. And she's getting sick of that. And when they break yet another promise to her, she decides, you know what? I have lived this life too long for them, and I want to start doing something for myself. And that includes going after Preston. So her and Preston actually had a bit of a run-in at a party, and immediately her brother and his best friend warned Preston, like, stay away from my sister, especially because of Preston's reputation that he more than earned in The Doctor. He's like, you stay as far away from my sister as possible. And Preston's like, cool, yeah, you know, you're my buddy, I can't do that to you, like, I love you. However, he also is really into Sydney, and when she comes to him asking to help her out a little bit, he doesn't want to say no, and it ends up being their romance. This might be a top 10 book of this year for me. This was actually the very first book that I read this year. Started the year off on such a good note. Love it. Love both of these. But yeah, between these two, I think I'm going with Preston. However, Dr. Lowe, I will never forget some of the things that you did in this book. So love these both. So fun. And they're books 1 and 5 in Nashville Neighbors, but they're standalone, so you can read. You could read just these two if you wanted. You could read just this one. But I do think that seeing Preston's redemption arc from this book to this book is really satisfying. Let's get the other ex's dad kind of like trope out of the way. I don't think any of the rest of these are ex's dad that I have on this list, but we do have Praise and Mercy, where once again, Beau, the ex in this book, I was like, Beau, you suck. You're garbage. This Beau, dear God, I love him so much. This is a God tier book for me. This was a top 10. Did I read this last year? Whenever I read this book, this was a top 10 for me. Absolutely love this book, Beau and Maggie. like changed the older woman, younger man trope for me. But it all started with this man right here, Emerson. Oh, he's so hot. Okay. Once again, like I said, this is ex's dad, this is age gap, this is boss employee, and this is also dom sub. So Emerson owns this spicy club, and that has really created a rift in his relationship with his son. Bo has a girlfriend, Charlie, who at the beginning of this book, they break up. And Charlie is basically trying to get, I think it's like part of the security deposit back, but because Bo was like a bit of a bum, he had his dad do all of their like signing papers and stuff on this apartment. So anyways, Emerson has her half of the security deposit. So she ends up going to his office. She's like never met him before, like does not know who he is, or like knows who he is, but like has never met him, and he doesn't realize who Charlie is when she shows up. And she shows up and she's just trying to like get her check from his office. He mistakes her as being one of his new subs that he like called up to his office, you know? And she kind of like, at first she's so taken aback that she kind of just like doesn't realize what she's doing, and she kind of ends up following along. And then when he finds out that she is not there for that, oh, he's like horrified, but then he's also kind of like, wait, Charlie, I think there's something here. And Charlie is also like, wait, why was I kind of into that? And like, I can't be, right? He's older, he's my ex's dad, whatever. And then also she ends up getting a job with Salacious Players Club as, I think, like an assistant. I think maybe like his assistant, right? Love this one. I love the entire Salacious Players Club series. I do think that this one started it off on a really strong note. And I remember when I was reading this, I was like, I have zero interest in Bo's book whatsoever. Like, I do not need a book of the son of the ex. Like, this guy sucks. And then Mercy came along, and I love this book with my entire heart and soul. So not only then is it like kind of ex's redemption, but it's older woman, younger man, spicy club, dom sub, but she's the dom and he's the sub. This book was like unlike anything I had read previously, and oh, it's so good. So anyway, so Bo, obviously he's a little down bad on his luck, okay? He just doesn't really have a lot going for him. He doesn't really know what direction his life is taking. And after losing his ex-girlfriend to his dad, he's just kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing anymore. He's just kind of lost a little bit. And Maggie, she is one of the owners of the Salacious Players Club. So this is also then like dad's best friend, because Maggie and Emerson are buddies, obviously, because they co-own the club. And she is kind of doing everything that she thinks she should be doing. You know, she has a successful career. She bought a house. She's kind of doing all the things that like she thinks these milestones that people her age should be doing, but it's not really like, it's just, she's not happy. And unlike a lot of the other owners, she does not really take advantage of the club and like what they have to offer. However, she decides one night, like, I need to kind of like get over this. I need to kind of get over this repression that I've kind of lived with and like put on myself. And I'm going to get on our app. And she ends up getting on her app, and she matches with Bo, but they do not realize like who the other is until they actually decide to meet up at the club one night. And they are both looking, you know, for something out of this relationship. Maggie's kind of exploring her dom side. Bo's kind of learning like, maybe I am more of a sub than I thought I was. And then they end up, you know, exploring that together, but then also falling in love and other things. This book, I like can't even explain how good it is. I love this book so much. And between these two, I'm 1,000% picking Bo. Like, I love Bo, loved his redemption arc, loved his and Maggie's romance. Everything about this book is perfect. And these are books 1 and 4 in Salacious Players Club, but again, all standalones, so you don't have to read books 2 and 3, even though love both of those as well, but you could just read these 2 if you wanted. Okay, so now we're jumping into one where these are not in the same series. There's one in like the main series, and then there's a second gen specific series that you're gonna get. And we're also taking a Mafia turn here, and that is Bound by Honor by Cor Riley and By Fate I Conquer by Cor Riley. So this is the first book in the Born in Blood Chronicles, the original series, and then this is the 4th book in the Sins of the Fathers series. I'm gonna start out with the dad, Mr. Luca Vitiello. So this one is a Mafia arranged marriage romance. So Luca, his dad, is the head of the New York Mafia, so one day he is going to end up taking over. Aria, her dad, is pretty high up in the Chicago Mafia, and she is the eldest daughter, and kind of like how that works in this world is she knows that one day she's going to have an arranged marriage, but she never would have thought that it would be with the throat crusher of New York, a guy like Luca with a reputation like his. And she is basically kind of offered up as a bit of a sacrificial lamb from Chicago to New York in order to kind of like build an alliance with these 2 families, you know? And she does not want this. She's promised when she's really young, and she basically knows that the second that she turns 18 is like when their engagement is going to be announced, when she's going to have to get married, what have you. And she doesn't want that. Like, she wants to get married for love. She's scared of Luca, but that's what you're gonna do. And these are very like old school Mafia vibes. I love them. I mean, if you're new to my channel here, I talk about the Camorra Chronicles all the time, or Born in Blood, Camorra, what have you. They're my favorite Mafia books of all time. And here's the thing, this is the one where I am picking the dad, Luca, all the way. I love Luca so much. Like, one of my favorite Mafia men from Cora Riley. And then you get their son in the 4th book in the Sins of the Father series. It's Amo and Greta. And Amo, so he is the son of Arya and Luca, so one day he knows he will take over New York from his father, but like for right now his dad is just trying to kind of like show him the ropes basically. And they make a trip out to Las Vegas, and Las Vegas and New York, they don't really get along. Okay, they got some history, they got some beef with each other. Like, yes, there were marriages made between these two families to try to like keep peace, but they just know that this peace is not really going to last. And when Amo goes out to Las Vegas with his dad to kind of like, again, accompany him on these terms negotiation kind of deals, he ends up seeing Greta there, and Greta is the daughter of the Las Vegas capo, and they end up under these circumstances getting like locked together in a room for a few hours, and they just kind of like get to know each other a little bit. And Amo realizes that he is kind of into Greta, however he is promised to another back out in New York, and they can't really be together. So like I said, this one, I mean, I obviously recommend, I think you should read, especially like Sins of the Father. I mean, honestly, you could jump into this one, but I do think that you would want to read the Born in Blood Chronicles, or at the very least Bound by Honor, and then probably Twisted Pride, which is Greta's parents' book, if you plan on reading this one, just to get like the fullest experience, and also just because they're all so good. But I also know that is a ton of books, so you decide what reading order you want to take. But if I'm choosing between Amo and Luca, sorry Amo, it is no competition. Your dad's hotter, your dad's better, he just does everything better, okay? Crushing people's throats, enough said. Let's switch away from Mafia for a moment before we get back into some more Mafia books, and let's go with Falling Away and Falls Boys. So these are more contemporary romances. This one is a high school one, and then this one is like new adult kind of vibes. So this one is the 3rd book in the Fall Away series, and this one is the 1st book in the Hellbent series. So this one is Jax's book, and this one is his son Hawk's book. So this one, our heroine Juliet, there is something that happened at her college campus that basically kind of like swirled all of these rumors about her, and she has now decided to come back to her hometown for the summer to kind of get away of all of that. However, like her home situation also isn't the best there, so she's not really at a great place in her life when she gets back home. And Jax, he is still back and living in his hometown even after he's graduated. And Julia was always the girl that never like gave him the time of day, kind of like said no to him, even though he didn't really ever have an issue, you know, with like romancing ladies. And he has his own backstory. I don't really want to get into that because I don't want to spoil anything. I just want, if you're going to read this, you to be able to read it organically. But Jax, oh, I have such a soft spot for him. He is my favorite hero from the Falling Away series, and it ends up being their romance throughout this book. So like I said, this is the 3rd one in the Fall Away series. I do think you could just pick this one up and read it. However, obviously for the richest reading order, you probably want to read the other ones, but I would say you could go ahead and jump into this one. But truly, like, these two, they just are soulmates to me. Like, I just love, they just have like a very pure connection, and they just like see past everything that the other, like the surface that the other puts out, and it's just beautiful. I love it so much. And then we get their son's book in Falls Boys. So this one is a good boy, bad girl romance, kind of like a little bit wrong sides of the track vibes. So Hawk, he is kind of growing up in his parents' and family's shadow. Like, all of the people in this one, like, they have this racing business kind of in their hometown. They're just all very well known, okay? They're like well-known people. They got connections to like the mayors, whatever. So Hawk is kind of growing up in all of that and growing up in this famous family around town. And he's just known as being like the good guy, you know, the one that people can always count on, the one that his family can count on, the one that's like gonna show up and do like community service, what have you. However, that doesn't mean that like he still doesn't have an edge to him. He's just better at hiding it than other people. And basically one night the two of these, oh, and then the heroine, she is from like kind of the opposite sides of the track, you know, has to do some sort of things to make money. Her home life is not great. She's basically like raising her younger siblings herself, and she just kind of like looks at all the other people on the other side of the tracks and like, you guys don't realize how good you have it. You don't understand like what the other people in this town are kind of going through. And basically one night these two both end up witnessing a crime and then kind of have to go on a hideout together, and it's kind of like a little bit of forced proximity with that, while they're not only kind of like hiding from the police but then also trying to bring justice to what they ended up witnessing together. I love this book. I love Hawk. You do see some cameos of the parents in there as well, but truly he just is like his parents' son, you know, like he just feels so true to Jax and Julia, but also like very much a unique character all in of himself. And I loved Arrow, our heroine in this one. Again, if there's something that Penelope Douglas can do amazingly every single time, it's writing an incredibly strong heroine. Loved her, loved their romance. Just again, very pure, very cute. Should we go back to Mafia? Actually, I just realized I didn't pull these off. Should we go back to Mafia? I think we shall, right? So I'm gonna talk about Legacy of Gods here. If you're sick of hearing me talk about it, so sorry, but this is my channel and I want to talk about it. So we have, first up, we have two sons that we're gonna talk about. We got Creighton and we got Eli. These are brothers, and their dad, I'll have to put a picture in, Deviant King by Rena Kent. This is their dad's book. So Aiden King starts with this one. It is the first book in the Royal Elite series. Aiden and Elsa, they actually have the first 3 books in this series, but obviously it all starts with Deviant King. So Aiden is very much, he is from this wealthy, powerful family, which also, 3rd generation, I haven't read. You also get Aiden's dad's book. So in this case, you could have the sons, the dad, or the grandpa, but I haven't read the grandpa's book yet. So he is from this very wealthy, powerful, elite British family, and it takes place at this elite university, the Royal Elite University, where all of these wealthy, powerful families send their kids. And when Elsa arrives, so she has her own history, her family has her own deal. Once again, I don't want to say, because I can't remember what you know and don't know going in, so I'm not really going to say much about her backstory, but anyways, she ends up going to this school as well, and when she arrives, Aiden just immediately starts picking on her, starts bullying her, hates her, whatever. And she at first kind of takes it a little bit, but then she's like, you know what, I'm not just going to take this lying down, and she starts pushing back on him. And Aiden is just not used to that. He's top dog. He's not used to kind of having someone push back on him. And he then realizes that it's because he's also into Elsa that he's picking on her. Of course, it's bully, it's toxic, it's messy, but it's so good. This is where it all starts, okay? In my personal opinion, once again, if we're choosing between, if we're choosing between father and son, choosing father. In this one, if we're choosing between father and son, I'm choosing both of the sons, specifically Creighton King, but also love Eli as well. And then you get these two. This is the Legacy of God series. So it is a 2nd generation series of a lot of Rena Kent's books in her Rena verse. So these are books 2 and 6. And again, they can be read as standalones. However, I love all of these books and I think you should read them all. But God of Pain, let's talk about this one first. So Creighton is the adopted son of Elsa and Aiden after they had Eli. So Eli is his older brother, even though Eli's book is 2nd. And Creighton, basically the circumstance of Creighton being adopted, once again, I'm not really going to say anything about. You can read and find out. But he has some deep-rooted trauma in his backstory and his childhood that still affects him today as an adult. And he's just very much he's not introverted, he's just quiet. He doesn't really have a lot to say. He doesn't really talk a lot. And he's just brooding and grumpy, and it's so good. And he's attending one of these universities. This one has 2 main universities and they're rivals. And he goes to one, and then Annika, our heroine, she is the Mafia princess of, we're actually going to get into her brother and her dad here in a second, but she does not attend the rival, and she ends up going to the same one with Creighton and all of his friends and kind of falls in with his friend group. And she always has an attraction to Creighton, and she's always talking to him. She's very bubbly, and she's just always trying to kind of pull him out of his shell. She's just curious about him. She's kind of who is this quiet, brooding guy? I feel there's more beneath the surface of him, and she's attracted to him. However, he's you don't want to catch my attention, quite frankly, because I will show you pain that you are not prepared for. And Annika's kind of bet, keeps on pestering him until finally she does catch his attention. I love these two so much, but I want to say so much more, but I can't because I don't want to accidentally give anything away. But out of all the Kings, Creighton King is the top one for me. However, I do really love Eli as well. So this is the 6th book in that one, and this is a marriage in trouble kind of romance, amnesia romance. Again, I feel this one is kind of hard to explain without really diving into a lot of backstory. So basically Eli and Ava, they are married. However, when Ava wakes up, she realizes that the past like 2 years of her memory are completely wiped. So normally she hates Eli. They have this rivalry throughout the entire series. And so she still is kind of operating on that. However, when she wakes up and it's 2 years of her memories gone, she realizes that in that 2 years, her and Eli ended up getting married. And he's like, "Are you ready to come home, wife?" And she's like, "What? I am not your wife. Why would I ever marry you? Whatever." And it ends up being their romance. Like I said, I'm really glossing over this, but I feel like this video is starting to get long because I can't help but just yap. So I'm going to keep rolling with this. I loved this book. Normally the amnesia trope does not work for me. However, Ava, this book made me cry on multiple occasions. Like, I loved Ava's character. Eli, oh dear God, I love him so much. Once again, I mean, Creighton King is my number one out of the Kings, but Eli's right behind him. And let's finish out the last of the Rena Kent books that I'm going to talk about with this trope, and that is God of Wrath and Vow of Deception. So Vow of Deception is Adrian's book, and then God of Wrath is Jeremy. Listen, this is my top book of the year. I'm not going to read something within the next like 4 or 5 months that's going to top it. I know it. This Jeremy and Cecily, it's so good. This is the third book in the Legacy of Gods, but let's start with the dad. Let's start with Adrian. So this one is Adrian and Leah's romance. So this is a mafia romance. So Adrian is like not the head. He's high up in the Russian mafia. And Leah, our heroine, she is out on the streets. She's homeless. And basically one day this man ends up approaching her, and she's kind of like doesn't really know what to think about him, but she's kind of like, okay, like bye, I'm going on my merry way, whatever. But then like the next night, she ends up getting cornered in a parking garage, and she gets kind of kidnapped by him a little bit. And when she's kind of like, "Can you let me go?" He's like, "Yeah, no. So listen, here's the deal. My wife, she's not here anymore, but you know what? You are like a doppelganger for her. You look identical to her. And you know what? I'm gonna need you to come and just basically replace my wife so no one can know that she's gone, because like I can't have that happening. So yeah, you're gonna come and like be my wife now." And she's like, "I'm not gonna do that. Like, yeah, I'm homeless. I don't really have a lot going for me right now, but I'm not just gonna come and be your fake wife." And he's like, "Yeah, well, you know what? You're kind of like framed for murder right now. So if I let you go, you can like go to jail, or you can come and be my wife." So she ends up going and being his wife. And there's so much more to this. It's the first book in a trilogy. And in this book, you see sweet little Jeremy. You see Jeremy as a kid. He's adorable. You know, normally I don't like kids in books, but he's actually really cute. And maybe I am biased because of how much I love Jeremy, that I'm like, I never got annoyed with him as a kid in Vow of Deception. But then God of Wrath. So you got Jeremy now. So obviously his dad, head of the mafia. So Jeremy, one day he is going to take up his father's place, but right now he is at I don't even remember what it's called, the one university, and he basically runs like this secret society, the Heathens, with some of his buddies that are in some of the other books that you get. And Cecily is one of his little sisters, so Annika, the heroine from this one, these two, brother and sister. Cecily, our heroine in this one, she's besties with Annika, okay? So Jeremy's kind of like seeing her around, and she just does not let Jeremy kind of like push her around or anything, and he's kind of like, you should not be testing me, because like, do you know who I am? However, so they have this heathen's initiation ritual to get into their secret society, and Cecily ends up sneaking in to kind of like gather some information. However, Jeremy ends up trapping her, and they kind of have a little bit of an encounter, and from there on out, his attention is zeroed in on her. He cannot figure out why he is obsessed with her, but he also cannot let her go, even though they are kind of like from rivaling friend groups and such, but he just becomes obsessed with her, and Cecily, and kind of like stalks her a little bit, and Cecily is like, I'm scared, I don't know what to do about him, but eventually he ends up wearing her down because he's so hot, and it ends up being their romance. Listen, I've talked about this book enough. I love this book with my entire heart and soul. Like I said, it's gonna be my favorite book that I've read this year. Everyone read Legacy of Gods. I've talked about it enough, and let's keep it rolling. Oh, and if we're choosing them between Jeremy and his dad, Adrian, so granted I haven't finished Adrian's books yet, so subject to change, but it's gonna be Jeremy. It's going to be Jeremy, okay? Jeremy and Creighton. Love. So next up, this one is a little bit different. Again, it's like a second generation series and an original series. However, the second generation series is MM, but this one is MF. So this one is Lily and Lowe's book, and then this is their son, Mafia, and his relationship with his bodyguard, Pharaoh. Oh, I love these books so much. Okay, so Addicted to You, this is where it all starts. It's the first book in the Addicted/Calloway Sisters series by Kristen Becker-Ritchie, and this one follows Lily and Lowe. They are childhood best friends, and now as like adults in college, they're still really good friends. It's also fake dating as well. So they both come from two very wealthy and prominent families. They've grown up around each other. And now when they're both off at college, they are still best friends at their core, and they kind of use each other to help hide their addictions from their families and everyone else around them. So Lo is an alcoholic. He's addicted to alcohol, and Lily is addicted to sex. And they both kind of use each other as that cover. And they don't start out, you know, obviously being like in love, but watching them slowly but surely morphing, like their friendship morphing from that into more, is so good. It's beautiful. They have 5 books in this series. This series is 10 books. It's a commitment, okay? It's a lot of books, but it's truly so good. And then you follow other couples throughout it, what have you. I'm doing a bad job at explaining, but honestly, like I said, this video is getting so long. I just need to like kind of get wrapping it up. Then Damaged Like Us, their son, their eldest son, Mafia. So because of who his parents are, he has grown up in the limelight, and he has always had bodyguards, and he's always had a crush on Pharaoh, who Pharaoh used to guard his mom. However, now Mafia's in his early 20s, and he ends up getting a new bodyguard, and Pharaoh ends up getting assigned to him, and he's like, I can't have Pharaoh as my bodyguard. Like, how am I supposed to act around him when I've had a crush on him for years? And Pharaoh's just this calm, cool, collected dude. Like, literally cool is the best word that I can use to describe Pharaoh. And basically it's forbidden, like they can't be together. However, just again, watching their like friendship morph into more, it's so good. This is the first book in a 13-book series. Mafia and Pharaoh have 4 books in it. They have books 1, 2, 3, and 6. But 6 is just basically like their wedding, their happily ever after book. But the first 3 are kind of like their main love story. They're so good together. I love them so much. And again, I love Mafia, don't get me wrong, but like Lo, oh, he's so like mean sometimes. He's sad, he's broken. Oh, especially in this book, he's so sad. Oh, I love it so much. I love a sad boy, what can I say? Okay, so anyways, that is it. I think I got them all that I was planning on talking about today. This video is, I don't even know how long. I hate how long sometimes my videos end up being, but I really do try to talk quickly or be concise, but that just doesn't really work a lot of the time. So anyways, that is it for today's video. I think already on Friday I am going to do my chat chill and get ready with me, because why was I because I wanted to break up like doing the You Give Me Tropes whatever video that I did that last week. So I think already I'm going to do chat chill and get ready with me this Friday, and then we're ending the month, or like we're nearing the end of the month, so it's already going to be TBR and wrap up time soon. So yeah, that's kind of what you can expect coming up soon. So anyways, that is it for today's video, and I will see you when I see ya.